the Leo Alves podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Leo Alves podcast. And in today's podcast episode, I am going to discuss with you equipment that you could potentially buy, workout equipment that is, for a workout space at home or a home gym, whatever you want to call it. Now, in this podcast episode, I'm doing this podcast episode just because, number one, many people, potentially yourself included, do work out at home nowadays. I feel like since 2020, it's been, people were doing it before then, but I think it's become even more normal to do it now and more common. So this could be a great podcast episode if this is the case for you or you've been thinking about making the switch. And number two, I feel like if I have spoken about this on the podcast before, it was a long time ago now, at least 2 years potentially. So yeah, I do feel like it's about time that I do speak about this again. You don't have to buy everything that I'm about to list off. Go for whatever you can afford and have space for, even if it's just one or two items. And yeah, with that said, I'm going to also assume in this list that you don't have unlimited money and space. If you did, then you probably wouldn't even have to listen to this podcast episode. You could just buy whatever. But again, if you do have somewhat of a limit on space and money, and then we can get stuck in. Anyway, so somewhat in order of priority, number one, and I do feel like this is the most important thing to have, if you're only going to buy one thing on this list, make it this, because this is what's going to realistically help you make good fitness progress, and that's adjustable dumbbells. And better yet, if those dumbbells can turn into a barbell, that would be amazing, because investing in some adjustable dumbbells, or again, better yet, adjustable dumbbells that can turn into a barbell, is just what's going to help you make so much progression. Because again, with that, there are so many different types of exercises that you can do, whether it's a barbell Romanian deadlift, single arm dumbbell rows, chest supported rows, dumbbell chest press, single arm dumbbell chest press. There's just an endless amount. So again, it would be a really good idea to invest in that. Now, you're probably wondering, how much total weight should you go for? I would say you do well to invest in as much as possible, depending on space and budget. If you're new to working out, then perhaps about 50 kg total weight for now will keep you going for a good while. Okay, if you've been working out for a while already, then I'm sure you have an idea more or less as to how much total weight you should invest in. If you only get 10 kg in total, that's not going to last you very long before you need more weight to challenge you further. Because if you haven't worked out for a while, then chances are you're going to go through a phase of newbie gains as well. And I can tell you now that for the strong majority of exercises, you're going to need more than 10 kg pretty rapidly once you do experience that newbie gains phase. Now, point number two is, again, and you can tell now that I'm not going to be stuck on each point for a very long time, because I don't need to be. This is a very straightforward podcast episode. But point number two, or equipment suggestion number two, is long and short resistance bands. So by the long resistance bands, the longer ones, sometimes some of them will come with handles on each side, and then the shorter resistance bands are sometimes I think called glute loops as well, and they're just the super ones. And the reason why I mention these is because they're super cheap. They take up no space. They give you the ability to do more exercises, again, whether it's banded pull-aparts, so you're just using the resistance band in itself, or you maybe add a resistance band to your deadlift at home, which makes the deadlift more challenging without the need for extra weighted plates. You can make exercises with dumbbells and barbells even more challenging in that way. So it just makes sense in every single way. They're, again, super cheap as well. And the best part about them is that when you go traveling, for example, whether you're going to another part of the country or you're going abroad, they're very easy to pack with you, and they take up no space in your luggage, or very minimal space. So it could just be a good one to have all round. I think they make a lot of sense, and they are some that I pretty much suggest to everyone to have at home, because even if you don't work out at home that much, they can always just come in handy. I feel like, even if you're just going to take them to the gym with you to be able to do a little something, whether it's helping you warm up as well. Equipment suggestion number three is a pull-up bar. It's one of my favorite bits of equipment, and depending on the bar you opt for, there'll be a lot of different variations you can do. Pull-ups are also, variations, actually, before I go on to the next point, variations that you can do is palms, so pull-ups, so palms facing away from you, chin-ups, palms facing towards you, close grip chin-ups when you have your palms facing towards you right next to each other, which works your biceps some more. And then there's like more challenging variations as well, where maybe you've got one hand on and then you grab a towel on the other. There's just so many variations that you can do. Banded chin-ups, resistance chin-ups, eccentric chin-ups where you just do the weight down. And when I say banded chin-ups, I mean resistance banded chin-ups where you use the resistance band to take your weight to help you do your first chin-up, which actually brings up a really good point as well. Even if you can't do a chin-up right now, a chin-up bar is still really good to have because, again, there's a lot of variations that you can do to help get you to your first chin-up, in which a chin-up bar is still involved, like the ones I said, eccentric chin-ups, banded chin-ups. I know I'm missing some as well. Flexed arm hangs potentially, which is where you just hold like the top part of the chin up for as long as you potentially possibly can. So again, there's just a lot you can do, and it opens more doors having a chin up bar. And chin ups are also a great performance goal to have as well if you can't already do one. It just gives you something really motivating to aim for, because I've spoken to many people by now about their fitness goals. Sometimes I won't even mention it. I just tell people what I do for a living and they automatically start telling me, about their fitness goals, which is quite an interesting thing. But yeah, a lot of people just want to aim for their first chin up or to be able to improve at the chin up. So I always feel like it's just a really cool thing to just be able to have and work towards. The next potential equipment suggestion is a bench. And again, I am going through these somewhat in somewhat of a particular order, in order of priority. But yeah, preferably an adjustable bench. It makes performing exercises such as dumbbell chest presses, Bulgarian split squats, dumbbell rows much easier, because these are all great compound exercises that will help your workouts. And on that note, I have a bunch of exercises on my free workout plan actually that use the adjustable dumbbells and or the barbell and a bench. So if you want that free workout plan actually, then just click the link in the show notes of this podcast episode, in which I say free workout plan, and you can grab your own free workout plan there. But yeah, an adjustable bench can only be helpful if you can't get an adjustable bench or it's outside of your budget. Again, a bench is just better than nothing at all. But yeah, this will just, again, open so many more doors for you in regard to the exercises that you can perform. Point or equipment suggestion number 5, I should say, is a suspension trainer. Some people call this the TRX. The TRX is actually just a specific brand that makes suspension trainers, but I think they just got so used. They just got so good at making suspension trainers that now people call suspension trainers TRXs, whereas it's actually called a suspension trainer. So this is just a heads up. It's kind of like, I don't know, say Apple got so good at Apple are already good at making phones depending on who you ask, but if everyone just called their smartphone an iPhone, it'd just kind of be like that. So everyone calls the suspension trainers a TRX. But yeah, anyway, that's not really important to the subject of this podcast episode. But yeah, another great bit of equipment that's easy to pack and set up while taking up minimal space, giving you the ability to do so many more exercises. I feel like it's a no-brainer as well. So again, like I said, it's easy to pack. It's easy to take abroad with you. If you're going away for a week and you want to do a little bit of exercise, the resistance bands and the suspension trainer will take good care of you. Even to do it at home, there's a lot that you can do with it. Even if you're advanced or a beginner, there's so many different variations that you can do. I can't really tell you about it on this podcast because these are variations that you might want to see with your own eyes to be certain of how you do them. But again, there's just a lot you can do. For example, a favorite of mine is the inverted row. If you don't know what that is, go on my YouTube channel. Again, that's a link in the show notes of this podcast episode as well. And if there's like a search option on my channel, just type in inverted row and I show you how to do it. I do it with a barbell row, but you can do the exact same thing with a TRX. And I really do like that variation of a row. And I think that's just one example of many that you can do with, or many exercises that you can do with the suspension trainer. So it's worth taking a look at. Equipment suggestion number 6, some sort of cardio equipment, such as the stationary bike or the cross runner or the rower or the Stairmaster or the treadmill. Pick whichever you prefer. There's no wrong or right answer. I would say it's just more of a personal preference thing on this note. Cardio is important. After all, the heart is the most important muscle in the body, because without it, we're not going to be able to do much. So yeah, I would say it could be something you potentially consider if you've got the space for it as well. And if it was me, I would prefer a treadmill that can preferably go at an incline, because I do prefer cardio in which you can, like, my favorite type of cardio is like zone 2 cardio, in which I'm on the treadmill at an incline and I'm just going at it for like half an hour. I'm not saying this is fun, but if I'm going to have to pick a cardio, I don't think cardio is fun. That's just me. But at the end of the day, we do a lot. We have to do things sometimes that are worth doing. You know, not everything that we have to do is fun. Sometimes we have to do things just because they're good for us. That's the case with cardio as well. If I'm going to pick something, I'm going to pick a treadmill in which I can, you know, just put it at an incline and just go at it for like 20, 30 minutes. Otherwise, point number 7, and this is more of an honourable mention part because I am getting towards the end of this podcast episode. And these are honourable mentions if you have the space and money for it, are a multi-gym machine, a squat rack, and kettlebells. So number 1, a multi-gym machine just could be really good. Now, it takes up a lot of space, and I'm going to say that. And that's hence why I said if you have the space and money for it, go for it. I really like a multi-gym machine just because I feel like it just gives you a lot more options to do. Sometimes dumbbell chest presses can get boring after a while, or even if you rinse out all the variations. I remember I was working out at home for like a year at one point. I was doing dumbbell chest presses, I was doing incline dumbbell chest presses, I was doing single arm dumbbell chest presses, and eventually got to the point where I was like, you know what, I just really want to use something else. And that's when it would have been nice to have like a chest press machine, for example, or a multi-gym machine that allows me to do chest presses. So it's just like another equipment to do the job as well. It's just something, a way to vary things up, to keep things exciting. And I think that's nice to have. Lat pull downs, because you can't really mimic a lat pull down with free weights. Maybe it's got a quadricep extension or a hamstring curl, which again are 2 exercises that you can't really mimic with free weights. So it comes with a lot of upsides having a multi-gym machine. Again, if you've got the space and money, I would prioritize the other stuff I've already listed. But again, if you've got the space and money to have it, then go for it. A squat rack is also a really good suggestion as well, because again, it allows you to do squats a lot more safely, barbell squats that is, barbell chest presses as well, barbell overhead presses. There's a lot you can do with it too, maybe barbell rack pulls. The reason why I would have mentioned this earlier, but what really put me off putting this like sooner in the list and why I left it towards the end is just because these can take up a lot of space. And I would argue that the other bits of equipment I mentioned already, number 1, they're a lot cheaper. Number 2, they're a lot more versatile. Number 3, they're just easier to put within a home gym. But again, if you've got the space and money, I would absolutely suggest investing in a squat rack. This was actually going to be the next bit of equipment that I was going to invest in when I was working out at home for so long, but then I just decided to go back to the gym instead. Because again, I was just like, it got to a point where I was like, I really miss doing barbell chest presses and like barbell overhead presses and barbell squats. Because, you know, without a squat rack, it's not very safe to do a barbell squat, because what are you going to do? Try and pick up the weight, fling it over your head, put it on your shoulders, squat it, and then how are you going to really put it back down? Unless you have a partner, and even then with a partner, it's quite risky. So yeah, it's just a tough one. So yeah, without a squat rack, you're probably just going to do a lot of goblet squats with a dumbbell or kettlebell in front of you. So yeah, it's just a nice way to have another bit of equipment, again, if you've got the space and money, to just vary things again. And lastly on this list are kettlebells. Now, the reason why this is an honourable mention as well, I'm not putting kettlebells last on this list or towards the end of this list because I don't like them. I'm a big fan of them, and they allow you to do a lot more exercises again. And I've been using kettlebells quite a bit in my workouts this year. But the reason why I put kettlebells here is because, again, I built this list assuming that, you know, you're limited in what you can buy. There's only so much you can buy. And if that's the case, then I would say get adjustable dumbbells and a barbell. And if you've already got adjustable dumbbells and a barbell, then kettlebells are secondary. I would actually prefer you look into other stuff. Are they going to hurt? No. Are they going to break the bank? Not exactly. But yeah, I would still prioritize dumbbells and barbells first. Saying that, I did have a kettlebell of my own. I had like a 12 kg kettlebell, just one 12 kg kettlebell, because I walked past it in the store and I was like, it's here, it's on sale, it's the last one left, I'll just grab it. But yeah, if you want to get your own set of kettlebells, go for it. That could work very well as well. Again, it's just going to help you be able to do other exercises and just vary things up for you, which can be nice to do after you've been working at home for a while. But otherwise, that's it from this podcast episode. Again, if you want that free workout plan, do click the link in the show notes of this podcast episode and you'll see where it says free workout plan. Do check out my YouTube channel again that I did mention here. And, you know, if any of the exercises I mentioned throughout this podcast episode you weren't too sure about, just click my YouTube channel, Leo Alves, followed by the name of the exercise that I mentioned if you want to see a visual example of how to do it. Otherwise, that is it for today's podcast episode. Take care, have a lovely day, and I'll see you around. That wraps it up for another episode of the Leo Alves podcast. I do hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. If you did, then please do consider sharing it with your friends, family, group chat, or even anyone else who you know could be interested in listening to that episode. Otherwise, if you haven't already, then please do leave a 5-star review on whichever platform you are listening to this on. And remember, all the relevant links, such as the inquiry form to potentially become a Kairos Online member, my social media handles, a free fat loss guide, and a free workout plan are all also found in the show notes of this podcast episode as well. Otherwise, take care and I'll see you around.